आज के प्रोग्राम गीतमाला में दर्शन सोहता की ओर से नमस्कार, सत श्री अकाल और अदावस और आप सभी भाई बहनों का हार्दिक स्वागत करते हुए शुरू करते हैं आज का प्रोग्राम। आज फ्राइडे का दिन है और फ्राइडे का मतलब होता है फ्राइडे नाइट मनी शो विद रंजीत धालीवाल जी। रंजीत धालीवाल जी जो एक बहुत ही सुलझे हुए, बहुत ही ऑनेस्ट सर्विसेज देने वाले मॉर्टगेज ब्रोकर हैं और प्रेसिडेंट हैं कलैरिटी फाइनेंशियल के। आपने कोई भी मॉर्टगेज लेनी हो किसी भी तरह की या अपनी रीफाइनेंसिंग करवानी हो तो आप एक बार ज़रूर रंजीत धालीवाल जी के साथ अपॉइंटमेंट बनाकर मिलें। आपका हज़ारों डॉलर का फ़ायदा करवा सकते हैं रंजीत धालीवाल। इनका टेलीफोन नंबर नोट कर लें, इस नंबर पर कॉल करके आप कभी भी अपॉइंटमेंट बनाकर मिल सकते हैं इनसे। टेलीफोन नंबर है रंजीत धालीवाल जी का 416-992-7265 416-992-7265। रंजीत जी आपका स्वागत।
Thank you very much, sir.
कैसे हैं आप?
Very good.
रंजीत जी आप हमें समझाएं, चारों ओर इस वक्त ग्रीस का चर्चा है। एक छोटा सा कंट्री पूरी दुनिया को हलाए हुए है, ये कैसे पॉसिबल है?
You're right. How can a tiny little country hold the entire world as a hostage? So in the case of Greece and many European countries, basically they've been spending a lot of money over the years.
जी।
Been spending. They start in the workforce a little bit later in their life, and they get free education. And they get a lot of government benefits basically, and they also retire early and they start getting government benefits after that. And they also, once somebody passes away, whatever their pensions and so on are, they get passed on to their kids and so on, or their families.
जी।
Now, obviously, a system like that is very unsustainable. Now, the politicians that have been coming in power in Greece have been making things very easy for everybody, obviously, to get elected. But no one really thought about who's actually going to end up paying for it, because eventually you got to pay for all this stuff.
Right.
And well, that time has come basically now. And the reason why a little country like that, Greece actually is probably represents less than 2% of the, maybe less than 1% of the entire world market, right? Very insignificant, in other words. However, the problem is the world nowadays is so interconnected, and you're probably hearing this term a lot out there in the news. What that means is that there's a lot of international banks that have lent Greece money. The Greek banks' money, and now these other banks, and many of them French banks, and they've lent them money, and so in case Greece defaults, in other words, doesn't pay them back, then those banks will not have enough money to survive. They'll have to go bankrupt. They, in turn, there's other banks have given them money and so on. And what happens is in situations like this, the yields on the products that these countries market, the yields go up quite a bit. So the Greek bonds, if you were to invest in bonds, the Greek bonds have been providing really good attractive return because nobody really wants to lend them. So when nobody wants to lend you anything, you gotta give them more higher rate. And so because of those higher rates and so on, a lot of these other banks have gotten involved, and they're thinking that if Greece goes down, then maybe it might affect, it'll obviously affect Italy. If Italy goes down, they don't even know if Italy could possibly go down. It might be too big to go down. In other words, they will affect the entire world. So if Italy goes down, it's going to affect French banks, German banks, and so on, and therefore even North American banks. And because of that, everybody is so interconnected. Even though Greece is so tiny, this is why it has had a huge impact on the rest of the world.
नॉर्थ अमेरिका की बैंक्स जो हैं उन्होंने भी ग्रीस को दिया है पैसा उधार।
See, the problem is, and we learned about this new type of investment instrument called the credit default swap. During the credit crunch. And these credit default swaps are basically between private companies or publicly trading companies. So where let's say, for example, one particular bank has lent Greece banks let's say $100 billion. And then that person buys a credit default swap from somebody saying that, hey, in case I don't get any of my money back from these banks are supposed to be some of the best banks in the world, or some of the most powerful companies in the world, and chances of them defaulting is very little. So, but they can still buy a default swap from another bank or another big company or an insurance company and so on. And they could say, all right, we will sell you $100 million credit default swap for, let's say, I don't know, $5 million or $3 million or something like that. Well, in the past, those companies that were writing these credit default swaps, they were making those $3-5 million for no reason.
It's like buying insurance.
It's like buying insurance, but it's being created by anybody and everybody.
I see.
Right? So the problem is that there's so many of these credit default swaps outstanding out there in the world, and they don't know, and I don't think they know exactly how many are even outstanding. So this is where they're saying that, hey, a lot more countries could be tied into this than just the Greek banks or the European banks alone. This is why many North American banks might have written credit default swaps, or might have given other guarantees, or invested in those Greek bonds or Italian bonds, which were paying much higher returns, right? Because the North American, even the North American mutual fund holders, North American banks, and so on, in many cases, they're allowed to put the money that comes into them into government debt. Government debt is supposed to be the safest type of investment in the world, right? So you're basically investing into governments. Governments and no one ever thought that any government would fail. Well, as we're finding out, that governments also do fail, and as the governments fail, then it might become very contagious. In other words, spread out to some of these other countries through their banks, through their other companies that have lent or guaranteed these credit default swaps and so on.
So it's quite serious.
It is very, very serious right now.
You think they will get out of it?
One thing that we know is that somehow the financial world has been able to pull themselves out. Sometimes situations like this are created by design. I don't think this is one of those times, though. And because we even have guys like George Soros. I mean, this is a gentleman that made $1 billion betting against the pound. The pound sterling back in the 80s or 90s. And even this guy is saying that if he was an active trader today, he would be doing what everybody else is doing, which is sitting on the fence, waiting to see exactly what's going to happen, because it's too early to call what's going to go. Which way are they going to go? Are they going to default totally, or are they going to totally come out of it?
All right. Ranjit ji, Christmas आन ही पहुंची है, almost is there. क्या advice देंगे आप हमारे listeners को इन दिनों में?
Well, holiday season is a time where we generally tend to spend a lot of time with friends and family and relatives, and also not only spend time, we also spend a lot of money giving gifts and things like that. So my first advice to people in this stage in the year is to analyze your own personal finances, to do sort of a check on yourself. Make sure you don't go the way of Greece or anything like that, right? So make sure you know what your balance sheet looks like. Make sure you know what your finances are like. So if you've got some credit card debt, loans, lines of credits, and things like that, maybe it's a good time to analyze if you can put some of this stuff into your home mortgage and thereby increase monthly cash flows. Okay. And so if you've got extra cash flows, if you can, you know that you're going to have access to a certain amount of cash, go ahead and have a nice holiday season, right? But at the same time, don't forget, in January, February, as the bills start to roll in, you're going to have to pay for this stuff. Right. And if you don't have any equity left in your house, then you can't roll it into your home. And also the rules of refinances make it tougher to take out more money out of a house. You can only take out up to 85%. But really, the advice is make sure you live within your means. And secondly, analyze your debts. Try to restructure them so that you can save on a monthly basis. A lot of people aren't aware that there's very simple steps that you can do, like picking up the phone and calling your mortgage broker. Just do that, and that mortgage broker will be able to figure out if they can restructure your debt, if they can reduce your monthly payment. As you know, sir, we've talked about different cases and all that. In some cases we can drop the monthly mortgage payment. We can include the debts in there, and sometimes we can drop that payment down to as low as 30-40% of the original. So if you were paying maybe, let's say $4,000 for all this stuff, we might be able to drop it down to like $1,700-1,800 or something.
Oh, that's very nice. They should call you.
Yes.
All right. आज के प्रोग्राम का स्पेशल क्या है हमारे listeners के लिए, रंजीत जी?
Special is anybody that calls me today and leaves me their contact details, and you take a mortgage from us at any time in the future, we will pick up your legal fees. So call me today and let me know that you're going to be doing a refinance or you're going to be purchasing a home, and we'll pick up the legal fees. So call 416-992-7265. 416-992-7265. Free legal fees.
एक छोटा सा कमर्शियल ब्रेक लेते हैं और फिर वापस आते हैं। रंजीत जी के इस ऑफर का जो इनका स्पेशल है, इसका फायदा जरूर लें। कॉल करें। पहले कितने कॉलर्स को?
20 कॉलर्स सर, फर्स्ट 20
कॉलर्स को। तो जल्द से जल्द कॉल करके पहले 20 कॉलर में आ जाएं आप। आपका जो लीगल कॉस्ट है वो रंजीत जी खुद देंगे, इनकी कंपनी देगी। इनका टेलीफोन नंबर है 416-992-7265। 416-992-7265। ये जो आपका ऑफर है ये थोड़े समय के लिए है, या आज से फर्ज किया हमने 6 महीने बाद घर खरीदा तो?
Well, you give me a call and we'll talk about your situation, and then most likely for majority of the people they're going to get the coupon, which they can use anytime in the next 6 months.
Any time
right?
in the future.
Yes. And also an interesting thing right now, sir, is we got an incredible 5-year fixed rate special.
Okay.
3.14%. 5-year fixed rate.
3.14%.
You know, I've been
5
talking.
years fixed rate?
That's right.
You
It's a very exclusive rate. We're on a pilot project with a lender, and it's through that particular lender. And so if you call anybody else within my company, they may not know anything about it. So call me up, and we'll be able to block this rate for you. 3.14% for 5 years fixed, whether you're purchasing or refinancing. That's, again, like free money, sir. We've never seen a rate like this ever in the history of Canada.
कॉल करें अभी अभी। रंजीत धालीवाल जी का नंबर है 416-992-7265। 416-992-7265। एक छोटा सा कमर्शियल ब्रेक और फिर वापसी।